Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to this week's edition of Risk to Revenue, where we're talking everybody's favorite subject, cyber liability insurance. I feel like this gets talked about a lot, and it's like the 2FA conversation, Ryan. It's just we have to keep having this kind of conversation for people to start to get it. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to keep having it too, because the numbers are not where they need to be. So I'm still having active conversations every week with partners that are unaware of rules, not sure of things, still trying to demystify the whole landscape here. So unfortunately, we are not done beating this horse yet.
Yeah, it's I had this epiphany the other day, and maybe we'll get into that a little later. But MSPs really love being technical implementers of stuff. Clicking buttons, buying tools, making configs, doing the hard work, which is great. That's me. We were talking in the green room about code, and I'm writing code all that. But I think, we hear this, but I don't think we hear it enough, which is sort of changing the narrative from the technical implementer to the trusted advisor. Right? And I think that might be a good session coming up later on down the road where we maybe pivot from implementer to facilitator, trusted advisor, VC, whatever label you want to call that. But I don't know, just kind of where my brain was going the last couple of weeks is we love clicking buttons, but that feels hard sometimes.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, let's just explain the risk and let's explain cyber liability to our customers and the 7 or 8 simple things they can be doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, why don't you come on up, say hello, let me bring you up here and say hello, and let me get this little thing going to you.
Yeah, good to be here. Ryan Seymour, VP Consulting Education at Connexicare. So I spent a lot of time with MSPs. I've been working in this space for the last 20 years or so. Consulting, training, supporting, coding, decoding, working with partners to really just operationalize cybersecurity programs. So happy to be here with you guys again. We've been doing, I don't know what number webinar this is, Tim. I think we've done at least a dozen of these this year. So
it's been a lot.
Yeah, it's been a good series, though. I think we've covered some really great topics, and I enjoy talking, so I think we keep this rolling, but really great to be here with everybody who's tuned in and listening in on the podcast. If you can't see us, good to connect with everybody here.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. I suppose I ought to say hello to. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tim Golden, founder and CEO of Compliance Scorecard, where we help your MSP have the risk conversation with your customers. A little demo link down the bottom if you're interested in joining our weekly live demo. All right, enough self-promotion for now. Today's conversation, yet again, another conversation on cyber liability insurance. But I think I'd like to maybe turn this a little bit differently, maybe a little technical, maybe a little trusted advisor. So, Ryan, when I think about this, both from a compliance and or a vulnerability management, what are some of the things that you're hearing from your partners around cyber insurance?
Yeah, so I think it's a little biased question for me, Tim. It's an easy answer because for where we're sitting at Connexicare, vulnerability management is pretty much a requirement now for just about every cyber policy out there. It doesn't matter what you're getting and what coverage you go, even the most basic coverage. Vulnerability management and scanning is showing up everywhere. So for us, it's a pretty easy conversation because it's more like one of those checkbox moments. You're like, all right, I got a vulnerability scan. What's a good way to do that? And Connexicare happens to be a very affordable way to get into vol scanning as not only a requirement for your insurance policy, but it also becomes a really great entry point into your customers' cybersecurity risks. And let's face it, the MSPs here, cybersecurity leaders here, whether you do security services with your customer or not, you are inheriting some of that risk. And so this is your opportunity to deal with it. And I think turn it into a revenue driver and turn it into an opportunity to become strategic advisor and not IT fixer anymore. Because cybersecurity is not an IT problem. Like, I would scream that every day. Cybersecurity is not an IT problem. So I think that it makes it easy for us because partners come to us like, we got a vol scan. So I don't really have to say much outside of here's the tool, here's how you do it. So
So I have a little anecdotal Connect Secure story well before compliance scorecard existed, and I was still at my MSP. Back up to, what was it, 2021, whatever the heck it was, when COVID first came around. I was working with a couple of healthcare organizations. Vulnerability scanning, back then was a little in its infancy. Yes, you had Nessus and the enterprise tools, but most MSPs weren't using them, and Connect Secure was just starting to gain, understanding and popularity there. And so the challenge that I always had was that you could never really standardize pricing, right? You mentioned affordable, right? And so, yeah, I was going to say Peter will probably kill me, but so, back up 2021, like I can go and I can Google how much does, security awareness training cost as a customer, as an end customer of an MSP. Without a lot of time and effort, we can Google and pretty much get retail or MSRP pricing pretty easily. Microsoft, Google, all the things. 4 years ago, you couldn't, it wasn't that easy. So I sat with one of my customers and I was like, hey, listen, like I have time invested in this. We have to do remediation. We have to do all the things. There's labor. And knowing in my head that they couldn't Google to figure out what would it cost for vulnerability without looking at enterprise tools, what would it cost? So there's no standardized pricing. So you know what we agreed on for a per endpoint price for a vulnerability management program, Ryan? Hopefully. $75 per device per month. Just for VMP.
Wow.
Now, granted, things have changed. That's a little, obviously things are a lot less and things are more automated. But when it comes to cyber liability insurance, vulnerability scanning is one of those buckets. And with tools, that can help you, like Connect Secure, for example, they're cost effective. And a lot of those components of remediation and patching and whatnot, have expanded. Like I used to have to sometimes physically go to a machine and do some updates that I couldn't push by software. Couldn't push from a patching tool, right? So vulnerability management, yes, one key component to cyber insurance. There's a few others, Ryan. Do you happen to know what they are, or would you need me to list them?
Oh God, put me on the spot here, Tim. So let's say vulnerability scanning, number one. AV, EDR, endpoint protection, number two. Number three, MFA. Who's forgetting about MFA here still? Why are we still talking about this? MFA's out there. I believe there's a backup or a continuity requirement in there for data backup. Shout out to our security awareness leaders. Security awareness training, I think, is number 5. I know there's one more. I think there's a 6th in there that might be eluding me. So I'm going to lean in on you, Mr. Tim. What's number 6?
Oh, there could be some. Oh, wait, I'm still wearing my old shirt. Sorry, I'm not going to do that. So, yes. So, backup, next-gen firewall, next-gen AV, annual assessment, security awareness training. And it used to just be incident response plan.
There it is.
But now they've taken the documentation to a much deeper level. Not only do you need an IRP, but do you have a backup and disaster recovery, or do you have an incident response? Do you have passwords, acceptable use? So a policy and procedure, what I like to call P&P program, right? So it's not just one document. IR is obviously important, but do you have additional policies and procedures? So if I'm thinking as an MSP, presenting to my customer around cyber insurance, backup, hopefully I'm doing that. But vulnerability management, I better be doing that. Security awareness training, some of these things are pretty much standardized stuff you're already doing, but making sure you're adding on things like an annual assessment against a framework, right? Like CIS or, NIST or whatever. And then policies and procedures that are fully governed along that process.
Yeah. Shout out to the govern too. I'm glad to see more pressure coming down on policy and procedure, because without that, it's like, what are you doing? You're running tools? You just got a tool? You're just running scans? What are you doing with those scans? To me, that policy is the base of how the tool needs to be configured, because the tool should support the policy, not have the policy drive, or not have the tools drive the policy.
Right.
So,
as we dig a little deeper into the cyber insurance realm as an MSP, stack is pretty well defined, right? We just told you 7 or 8 things in a stack. Building a price model around that stack isn't very difficult, right? Whatever. I won't get into all the different tools and options that are available, but rolling out an offering to your customer to help them, not just with the cyber insurance, but you know what? It's good business practice. And I think that's where a lot of MSPs get stuck is shifting the mindset from the tools and blinky lights to the trusted advisor and facilitation role, right? Let me be that trusted advisor, right? A small business doesn't go to a lawyer to buy a pen and a gavel, right? They go to a lawyer for the advice. They don't go to a plumber or an electrician to fix their sink or wire an outlet. They go to them because they're the trusted advisor that has all the things, right? They consult with them and have that sort of facilitation role of, tell me what I need to do and how to fix it. Similar for cyber insurance, like as a driver for revenue for MSPs, it is the perfect in, because I couldn't tell you the number of healthcare organizations I'd talk to, and they would just say, oh, insurance will pay for that. Not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
If you could even get coverage that doesn't cost you $1 bazillion a day or whatever it is, right? So speaking of that, Ryan, have you ever seen or have you been talking with MSPs at all that have maybe either them or their customers been denied coverage because they don't have things in place?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. We've heard tons of, I'll call them horror stories of MSPs having coverage and getting denied. And it's almost just like it happens in all insurance industries, I feel like how many of us have like car insurance and someone got into a car accident and their car, something wasn't covered on your car? Or you have a phone insurance and I drop my phone and crack the screen, and I go to the store and they say, well, the screen crack's not covered on your insurance policy.
Right.
Like, we all deal with this. Cyber insurance, I just think it's worse because the stakes are much, much higher. The dollars are higher, the reputational damage is higher, and it's a long-lasting effect. So tons of horror stories. I think the ones that shook me the most as I talked to partners in the community for the last few years is the MSPs that are held liable that aren't even doing cybersecurity services for their customers.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that always like really speak to me. Like, there's so much risk there. If you're an MSP and you are doing any managed IT services, I'm not even talking about cybersecurity services. If you're just doing managed IT services, you are in that gray area. You can be held responsible if you're not promoting your cybersecurity services, educating about them, or disclosing the risks to your clients. You can be held responsible. Where we've seen it. There was a class action lawsuit last year. I'm not going to name drop any MSP here, but there was a MSP last year in the headlines that it was a $4.4 million class action lawsuit got settled. And again, this MSP was not providing cybersecurity services to their client, but was held responsible because they acted negligent and did not educate. So to me, that's a wake up siren yelling for all organizations and cyber leaders. regardless of where you're at, that you need to get out in front of that conversation.
Mhm.
And then you need to have some evidence that shows you offered some type of service and the customer said, I don't want it.
Yeah, our good friend Dave Sobel over at the Business of Tech podcast has a couple of really good episodes on that. If you haven't listened to him, you should go seek that out. You're right, and this has been my motto since we've started Compliance Scorecard, which is have the risk conversation with your customer and let them make their risk-based decisions, because otherwise you own all that risk. That's where things like doing an assessment, putting it on a risk register, and letting your customer say yes, no, maybe on the items that you found in a gap assessment, which, oh, by the way, helps with cyber insurance. Yes, we do an annual or quarterly or hourly, full-blown gap assessment. We look at every control. We tie policies and procedures. We govern things. We do an actual risk program as that facilitator, trusted advisor, and being able to shift the risk back to the customer where it belongs. Otherwise, you own it. And like Ryan said, you could wind up in this class action of $4 billion having to pay out for something you weren't even aware that it was part of your, shared responsibility.
Sure. There it is. SRM, man. Gotta establish that stuff. It just blows my mind that we're still bootstrapping cybersecurity in this industry. It's still going on. We're still scared of it. We're still not. We should have a stranglehold by now on cybersecurity. It needs to be as ubiquitous as public Wi-Fi is anywhere out in public. Like, it should be like that. It's not.
Yeah. I think the challenge, I threw this out on LinkedIn a couple of months ago, like, define cybersecurity. That was the question. I threw it out there on LinkedIn, and we had, the number of comments of people or whatever, but even as an industry, we couldn't even define what that meant, right? Like, define cybersecurity. Like, if we are the professionals in our space, and we should be the ones at least having some clue around it, or at least we all have opinions around it, thoughts around it, what it should or should not be. How is the insurance industry going to define it? Because they're the ones either paying out or not paying out. When you're thinking about liability insurance and getting that for yourself and your customer, like, now, when we're, anytime I come up for renewal or anytime I've seen any of this working with some MSPs, there's a question on there. Do you provide IT services? Right? Because they're trying to figure out if you're doing IT services, i.e. MSP, TSP, whatever label you want to call that, higher risk.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, it's a great call out. It is an interesting question too, Tim. I think I might start asking some people that question. I am curious what people's responses are on what is cybersecurity to you.
So that's my thing for next week at Cyber Bay is I'm going to walk around with my little microphone and be like, hey, got a question for you. How do you describe cybersecurity? What is cybersecurity?
All right, I'm going to give you my preview because I've been thinking about it for 18 seconds now since you said it. So immediately my mind went to the CIA triad.
Yeah.
Kind of like when you said it, I kind of pictured the triad, and then I thought all of my actions and intentions kind of funneled through those ideologies, except I like to use trust as opposed to confidentiality. I think trust is a better word.
Yeah.
You have integrity, right? I like to call that continuity.
Okay.
Right. And then you have, what is it? Availability. And I'll call that, that's my operational outcome. So when I think of cybersecurity, I'm thinking about protecting the trust, continuity, and outcomes of the organizations that we're serving. And that could be academia, that could be government, it could be industry, it could be defense. I think we're all trying to do the same thing. So that's a great question, Tim.
That's a great answer too, because, you ask 10 different people, you're going to get 10 different things. You might get 100 different things from 10 different people. And I do this a lot. Like, define compliance as a service, define cybersecurity, define security awareness training. Like, these are categories of things that we all do in the industry that we have some norms around. But do we? I mean, heck, we can't even define what the hell an MSP versus an MSSP versus an ESP versus a CSP. And where are the people doing the work?
Agreed. It should be as normal as
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So no, you're I don't know if you're breaking up a little bit or if it's my internet connection.
I heard you delayed. I think I was delayed, so we were catching up.
Yeah. So, when I think about cyber liability insurance, it's definitely a good in as an MSP. We've all been talking blue in the face. It's 7 or 8 things. It's not hard. It doesn't have to be hard. You can package them together. You can have that conversation. I think you really just need to start with an assessment so your customer knows where the hell they are, or more, where they're not. And then let the customer, put it on a risk register and let the customer say yes, no, maybe, or in a true risk register format, mitigate, transfer, accept, defer, like allow that customer to make those risk decisions. Because you know what that does? It shows them where they are, but it builds your defensibility as an MSP. Like, hey, I told them and they said no. And I continued to tell them and they said no, right? And when the poop hits the fan and the cyber insurance companies come after you as part of this, because that's happening, right? Insurers are now including MSPs in their claims as well, right? So having things like an annual assessment and a risk register and having your customer and being that trusted advisor to show them, like, yes, you need 2-factor. Damn it, it's 2025. Why are we still talking about this? You need backup, you need vulnerability, you need policies, and you need these 7 or 8 basic things. I think of it like, you mentioned the CIA triad, right? So I'll just all the way down to stupid basic human needs. We need food, we need water, we need shelter, we need air, right? For cyber insurance, it's similar in the sense that we only need some of these basic things to at least cover our butt. Now, we're going to have in a couple of weeks coming up here, a good friend of ours, Jason Rory, we're going to dig into actual policy components and a little deeper here, not around cyber insurance. But this doesn't have to be hard, folks. Not just us, people way smarter than us in the insurance space. You've got the Wes Spencers and the Will Brooks of the world, the Dustin Bolanders that live and breathe this stuff every day, all preaching the same thing. Get your shit together and do that for your customer. Oops, sorry. I probably shouldn't have said that. Sometimes you need a firm hand.
Yeah.
Brian, with the last 4 or 5 minutes here, you have any really good key takeaways for an MSP? Here, let me pop you up here.
Yeah, I would say, Tim, you echoed it. It's take a defensible position heading into the end of this year and into next year. Let's start to turn the tide on cybersecurity being a bolt-on, being an add-on. And I would really embrace it. And I would start that off. We all have the tools, right? The tools are out there. But really, I think the culture change begins when we make it defensible with a strategy. So I would look to the cyber leaders here and whatever organizations you're supporting or whatever you're serving, have a strategy. And a strategy is documented. It's tangible. I can put it in my hand and read it and understand it. And it should state the why and the how. And if you can start with why and how, you can then take a tool, make it defensible, create value out of it, and truly start to reduce risk. At the end of the day, that's what we want to do, right? And you're going to get that both ways. Either you're going to get risk reduction when you're allowed to run these services and extend these services to your customers when they let you, because you have a plan, you have a price, you have a package, and here you go, sign here, we'll get started. Risk is getting reduced. Or you present it, the customer says, nah, I don't have the budget, I don't want to do it, I can't do this. Okay, have them sign off. I disclosed it to you. You said you don't want to fix it. Maybe we'll revisit this next quarter, next year. Again, you've reduced risk. So in either scenario, it's a win-win for organizations out here. Protect yourselves, become defensible, and have proof. And that starts with a strategy, a policy, a document. And again, man, there are so many resources out there available. I'll shamelessly plug Connexecure and Compliance Scorecard. I know myself, I know Tim personally, I have written policies and templates that I have distributed. I know Tim has done probably 10 times more than what I've done in his journey and career. And I know, there's organizations out there like NIST and CISA that provide us with really great templates that you can really use right now. You don't have to, recreate the wheel and start from scratch. You're really starting from the backs of a lot of pain, right? Off the backs of previous folks that have come before us. So let's take a lesson out of the book, cut those corners and become defensible. I think that's my theme heading into next year, become defensible.
I love that. It's funny because you mentioned, I see countless times a day on Reddit and Facebook, like, got a template. I just want to copy pasta. And I'm like, those are good jumping off points. And you're right, Ryan. I started writing documentation and policies in 2005 or 6. You couldn't Google any of this. AI didn't exist. Fortunately, I worked at, I had an educational research company, so I had really smart wordsmithy people to work alongside me. Like I would write, and trust me, yeah, highly dyslexic. I would write what we did, how we did it. And this is why policies, and I'm digressing for a second. Policies should not be aspirational. They should be what you do. And even if that policy is one sentence and it says, we don't have a policy, we plan to build one this year. That's it. There's your policy.
Mm-hmm. I call it intent.
Right? So then you iterate it next week, and you iterate it the following week, and you iterate the following, and you just keep iterating it, governing it along the way. But anyways, the point that I'm trying to make is that I hate to say it, but y'all have it a hell of a lot easier than some of us old folk have. Because, even 5 years ago, there still wasn't great stuff out there, and it was all enterprise level. So, yeah, defensibility is a really great word. I suppose I should share my key takeaway. When I think about cyber liability insurance for the MSPs, it doesn't really have to be difficult. There's 7 or 8 things that you probably are already doing to help your customers, to build that defensibility within your customers. You're probably already doing backup. You probably already have some next gen EDR, some MDR, EDR component, security awareness training, vulnerability scanning, adding things like a policy and procedure program, adding things like an annual assessment at a minimum, then showing your customer where they are in that risk assessment. And the key factor here is allowing them to go through a risk register and make those risk-based decisions. That builds not just your defensibility, but theirs as well. But it can also lead to project work. Imagine if you sat with your customer and you did an assessment. It helped them down the road potentially with their cyber liability insurance, sure. You showed them where all the gaps were, and as a trusted advisor, as a facilitator, MSP, as a VC, whatever word you want to use, as that trusted advisor, you showed them, hey, this is the gap. Do you want to fix it or do you not want to fix it? Anytime they want to mitigate something or fix something, project work. Anytime they want to, add a thing, fix a thing, reduce their risk, project work. So being able to do that assessment, put it on a risk register, and then have the risk conversation with your customer, you build defensibility, you show them where their gaps are, you could probably get project work out of it. We see it every single day when we work with MSPs that build out a program like that. Doesn't have to be hard. Hour or two a month. You got this.
Nicely said. Yeah, nicely said. Reduce risk and earn revenue. Who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah, I know. That's what we've been saying for 3 years now? We used to use double your revenue, but I don't like the W part. Reduce risk and earn revenue. I like the earn part.
Boost revenue, increase revenue.
Yeah, get defensible and make money.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Get defensible and make money. Yeah, reduce risk and increase revenue. I don't know, all the buzzwords we're supposed to be using. I'll just put that in my Ask Tommy Boy app that I'm building and see what it comes back with how we should say that. So
there you go. Ask it what cybersecurity is.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Ryan, I'm looking forward to connecting with you in real life next week at Cyber Bay. Maybe we'll do a little 3 to 5 minute short live video stream somewhere and be like, hey, look, we actually are real humans together in the same place.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, looking forward to it. If anyone tuned in or might be listening is going to be in Tampa next week for the kickoff inaugural Cyber Bay event. We will be there. I've got a breakout session I'm leading on Tuesday, and I'll be at the conference for the 3 days. So if you're there, come hunt me down. Love the chat, Tim. I'll definitely be seeing you and the team, and I look forward to connecting with everybody.
I arrived Sunday, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to go. So looking forward to connecting with those that will be in Tampa Cyber Bay next week. Stop on by Connect Secure and Compliance Scorecards booth. Say hello. Maybe you can get a checkers. I know you guys have your turtles too.
We got turtles galore. Yeah, people want the turtles. We got a whole supply of them bad boys. So
I got 900 checkers in my garage, and winter's coming, so I need to park my car in there at some point.
Well, bring me one, man. I'll take one off your hands.
I've got a suitcase with already packed. So, hey, everybody, have a great rest of your week. Fall is here. Enjoy your pumpkin spice fall maple tree, whatever latte things you like to eat and drink, and candy corn. And we'll see you all in November, I believe. Oh, no, wait, we have one more in October in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So have a great week, everybody.
Bye, all.
Bye.
Subscribe now.
I still got to fix